Hey everybody, welcome to a step-by-step guide on how to make your very own YouTube banner. I'm going to go into detail and show you the steps that I took to make my YouTube banner for my channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to act like you are basically a total beginner and you have no clue like what Photoshop even is. Here's the banner that I made for my channel. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to mention that I am using a tablet, and that's just makes everything a lot easier, but you can actually do this with a mouse. Maybe a couple of steps you can't do with a mouse, but I'll get into that here in a little bit. But for the most part, you can do everything that I'm about to show you with a mouse. So the first thing you want to do is open up a new document, which I've already got here, but you want to open up a new document and you want to have these dimensions, 2560 by 1440. These are the dimensions for YouTube's banner, and 300 DPI is plenty of resolution for a banner of this size. So I've got this banner open here, and first thing I always do when I open up a new document is come down here to make a new layer and just immediately delete the background because I don't like it. This gives you a transparent background. That's what the checkerboards mean. So now what you want to do is you want to find some images that you want to use in your project. Now, what I always recommend is that you find something that is really simple first and that you want to use as your base. And you always want to try to use it in black and white and then stack other black and whites on top of it and then eventually color. So I found these photos online and, you know, they're pretty good. I used a combination of multiple ones of these. So I used this one right here, which is like got the lattice work in the background, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I like this one a lot too because it kind of, you know, shows that you're pointing towards the stage a little bit, and also this one as well. So I kind of used all three of those. These were pretty good as well. I just didn't use them. But yeah, so basically you just find some images like this that you want to use. This is your base. This is your foundation, you know. And even just with like some simple changing of the modes, you can start to see that some of these will start to blend together really nicely. Just change these to screen real quick. And obviously that's a little bit washed out, but you get the idea. That's already starting to produce a picture that you want. Okay, so we've got the foundation images, and before we do any editing, I also wanted to add a couple of more I mean, these are nice, but this is not really eventful. You know, nothing's really going on here. So what I wanted to do is add some clouds to it. So I found a few cloud photos here, and let's just go ahead and turn these on. And I really like the what are they called? Cumulus clouds, like the really puffy ones. So I wanted to have some cloud effects going on for my image as well. So we've got these. These are also black and white. Black and white is just a really a lot easier to work with, you know. And while we're on the topic of black and white, if you find an image that you really want to use but it's not black and white, that's okay, because you can actually just throw it into Photoshop and just turn it into black and white, you know. You can also start to see if we turn these layers off right here, and we've got the base foundation still turned on below the clouds. If we change the mode right here to screen, screen. We change it to screen, you know, that's kind of what I'm going for already. And then you can kind of just, what you can do here is just hold down control. If you hold down control, you'll see the little navigation sign change, and you can move these clouds however you want. And if you want to resize this, you just hit Control T on this image, and it brings up this little box right here. And anytime you're moving a photo around like this, what I do anyways, if I don't want to just freely move it because you'll mess up the dimensions, come up here and turn on this little link icon right here. And what that is you maintain aspect ratio. So click that before you move anything, and then hold down Shift, and then grab this. You can move it however you want. Okay, so yeah, you can move this around. And put the clouds basically however you want it. And then if you bring your mouse up here, you'll see the little bent rotation icon. So you can actually tilt it like this, however you want to set them up. And basically what I did with this is you know, kind of set up the clouds to kind of make a focal point around the center of the font that I'm going to be using, right? So I'm just going to Control Z this a couple times. Actually, Control Alt Z, because you have to do it more than once. So make sure if you're Control Zing to undo something, Control Alt Z you can keep doing it. Okay, so those are the clouds, and that gives me just an extra little element to the overall banner eventually once we get done. Okay, so next up, what we can start doing is working with some color and a couple of other effects. So what I did next was add, I found a lightning image source that I wanted to use, and I basically put this behind the font just to give it a little bit of that, you know, pop, and it also adds an extra little dimension to the overall banner, so it's really nice. Okay, so you know, you find something like this online, some lightning or, you know, some kind of explosion or something like that, just to give it some kind of, just to make your font stand out a little bit more, or whatever the image might be. And also you can change these colors of the lightning in Photoshop, but these photos that I found already had the color changed for me, so I just imported a few just to see what they look like. And you know, my favorite color is blue, so I obviously stuck with the blue one, and I think it looks really good. I'm not going to turn the clouds back on, but we do have our base background still turned on under the lightning. Okay, so when I added my lightning to the image, basically what you want to do is just go to mode, and you can just play around and go through all of these different modes right here and just see which one stands out for you. Typically my go-to is screen, just because it's basically just like makes it a little transparent, just where you can see the under it, you know. And this is the one I eventually stuck with, but the problem you run into with screen is once you start screening multiple layers, so you know, if I start screening all of these layers down here, let me turn this off, you'll see these are all on, and if I turn all these on to screen, you'll start seeing that it starts really washing out the image really bad, because you're overlapping so many layers at once that it's just blowing up the image in a bad way. Just be careful with screen, because like I said, it does kind of wash out the image a lot if you overdo it. Yeah, you want to play around with some of these other ones like color dodge and linear dodge. Those are really good ones for color images, so just try out those before you go straight to screen. Okay, so the next thing I added was just a generic kind of color background. It adds just, you know, kind of like a color palette to the background that you can work with. So this one looks really nice. I like the way this one stood out a lot, and also stuck with this one just to give it that little bit of, it's pretty much the same image, but the pink, you know, it really kind of gives it that extra dimension, gives it a little bit of extra color besides having a entirely just blue only image. And I didn't end up sticking with this one, but it's still, you know, it's still pretty good color. So that's the next type of image you want to add. You want to add some kind of image that is colorful, but also basic, you know. This one's got these nice little circles, these nice little spots, which is kind of just an extra bonus. I like that a lot. It has a nice central focal point right here. Okay, so once you find your image that you want to use for just color in the background, what you want to do is, you know, once again, start playing with these color modes right up here. What I ended up doing for the blue one here is just changing it to linear color dodge, or linear dodge add. But as you can see, that's really bright right there. That's almost blinding. You don't want people to be blinded when they look at your image, so, you know, go ahead and play with some of the other ones. And so what I eventually did with this one, since this one's a little bit darker, I just went ahead and changed it to color mode. So once we turn both of them on, okay, so just from those right there, and we turn on this lightning, just simply from importing these images and changing a couple of these modes right here and playing around with a bunch of the color modes, we already have a really nice image. You know, we haven't done any editing, really. We haven't done any work whatsoever. This was just strictly from getting images online and throwing them in here, and then playing around with the modes right here to change the way they blend together. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to do before I go to the actual banner and show you the editing process that I went through is show you the font that I ended up using. This is a text layer, so to get to the text layer, you just hit this T right here, and you know, you just click and drag and drop something out here, and type out what you want to type out, right? So I don't want this right now. I'm just gonna cancel that. All right, so I found this font online, and you know, there's a bunch of different nice fonts you can find online. And there was a couple other ones I played with as well. Yeah, so basically you just want to go online, find you a font that you really like, a font that you want to use in your image, right? And then you install that font, and then Photoshop will automatically pick it up right here. Okay, so we got the font that we want to use now. Let's just zoom in here a little bit. Now, how do we get the font to do what we want it to do? How do we get it to look nice? How do we get it to pop? So basically you just come to this this text layer right here, and you'll just double click on it, and it'll bring up this pop-up, and pretty much right up top you can just start playing with all of these little effects right here to make it really stand out immediately. So but just for now, let's go with these, right? We got bevel and emboss, we got contour and color overlay. So bevel and emboss, you want to come up here and change this, what I did for mine anyways. Let's zoom in here so we can get a real nice look at it. And since this is like a really spiky text, you know, I want to change it to chisel hard. So if you change up the size, obviously that's a little extreme, so we're gonna turn it down. And you don't want to go overboard with this. Anyways, you can play with all that later. And then this right here, the shading, this is like where the light is hitting it from, you know. And then what I did for the color overlay is just hit this little color checker box right here, and you can really start picking colors that you want to use in here. But you know, this is generally a good method to start selecting some colors that you want to use. I kind of wanted to use like a bluish color, so I started going through that. But also what you can do is just start, since we already got these colors in the background, you got this color picker tool. You can just start picking colors in the background here. Let's just zoom out. And by the way I'm zooming out is Control Spacebar. You'll get this little magnify. You can zoom in and out just by clicking and dragging. And basically I just started picking random colors on the image itself until I found something that I liked. Okay, so without doing any real work or any real editing just yet, we've already got a really nice, you know, image to work with here. So let's go to my banner that I made, and I'll just start going through each individual thing that I started working on, and kind of explain to you what they mean, explain what I did, and so on. Okay, so here is the banner that I made, and I'm just gonna start from the bottom and go up and kind of just show you everything that I've added to it, one step at a time. All right, so let's just turn off everything. All right, so let's just go from here. This is the foundation image. This is the very bottom of the layer. Okay, and as you add layers to this, it piles on top of this base image right here. Okay, so when we turn on these next two layers, the image starts to look a little weird, but I'm gonna explain why. These are the images that have the black and white images that I showed you before, that have the lights coming from the sides. And the reason they look so weird and they got all these marks on the side is because I added a little thing right here called a mask. And to add a mask, all you do is click this little icon right here, and it'll add a mask for you. So when I add this mask to the layer, basically all it does is you can only paint black and white on it. And if you have black, I have black selected here. If you paint black on it, it's gonna mask your image, it's gonna hide your image. And then if you paint white back on it, it's gonna reveal your image that you just basically covered over. Okay, so moving up to the clouds, let's go ahead and turn these on. And we've got two separate cloud images here. We've got the same cloud images I showed you earlier, but what I've done to them is change the mode on them to screen, and I added a mask to both of these. So now I can show you why the masks are on the lights and why the masks are on these clouds, right? And I'll turn these lights off down here, and I've cropped them down to where they're just a little bit smaller, and then you just slide them into the position that you want, kind of rotate them a little bit. Basically, you just want to get these clouds oriented the way you want in your image. Okay, so what does this look like without the mask? If we disable this layer mask right here, you'll see it's just the base image, but it has screen on. That's it. And so what the mask does is, so it lets you define the edges that you want to keep and not keep. So if I come up here to this cloud right here on the right hand side, and I'm on the mask, make sure you have the mask selected. You can only draw black and white. And say I want to, you know, tune up this edge a little bit. This is you can right click on the image to change your brush size. And you can just come in here and kind of clean up the edges a little bit better. I'll show you, you can change up your brush size real big and kind of give it a fade if you want. If you don't want your clouds to be super crisp, like I had mine, and you kind of want to just have a fade for some reason. But yeah, like I said, you can do this with a mouse, you know. It's not going to be as refined with a mouse, but you can do it. So, okay, before we move on, I just wanted to show you how I got this little spotlight thing going on in the background. So if I disable this layer mask, you'll see that it's really washed out in the back here. But, you know, when I turn the mask back on, obviously I masked everything that I don't want to see to be black and what I wanted to see to be white. So this was the white and everything else is black pretty much. And I'll show you, you know, come up here and you can get rid of that. And that's what I did, right? So now we'll go to the background, which we've already went over pretty much. You know, we got that pink image on color right here. And then the next image, that's the pink image on color. And then the next image is that blue one on linear dodge add. Okay. And that's the base color for the background. And then we've already went over how we got our lightning. So here's the lightning, and the lightning is on screen. And that's pretty much the whole image. Besides the font and the other stuff that I'm about to go over, that's pretty much the entire image. You know, you got the lights, got the clouds, the background, the lightning, and that makes up the entirety of the image there. Now everything else after this is a fine detail pretty much. So next up is going to be the fonts, right? So for the Twitter and Twitch icons, you know, you can find these Twitch and Twitter icons online super easy. That's what I did. And all I did for those is just, you know, add some simple bevel effects with a drop shadow. That's it. And then obviously this is just a font. This is just a font layer. You know, I just typed out the font and did the same thing. Gave it a bevel and emboss and a drop shadow. Okay, so that's the base image there. We went over the Twitch and Twitter. So I'm going to turn those off for now. And then we're going to go into the actual main font that I made and how I got there. So this is basically the font done without any editing to it, except for effects, obviously. So we'll go into the effects here, and you can just see exactly what I use pretty much. So let's go into the bevel and emboss. We changed it to chisel hard. I went down here and changed the glossy contour. You can play with a bunch of these and see which ones you like. They're all pretty cool, but yeah, I stuck with this one here. Turned on the contour, left it the same ramp here, and then I turned on the stroke, which is just like an outline basically, and then color overlay obviously, and then I picked the color blue that I wanted, and then the drop shadow, which is like that big beefy border around the edge. So if I turn the drop shadow off, you'll see that that's where the stroke is. This is just the base image right here, base effects right there. That's with the stroke, and then this is with the drop shadow, and then the drop shadow adds that big nice boldness to it. And the reason I made the drop shadow so thick is because I actually wanted to I wanted to make it look three-dimensional, you know. Okay, so that is the base font with all of the effects on it, right? So let's go ahead and go to the next image, which this one I just added to give it that metallic look, give it that sheen right across the middle there. which is really nice little effect. And you know, still everything up to this point you can do with the mouse so far, even this part that I'm about to show you. So to add that little metallic effect, okay, so what you want to do is grab this original base and drag it down here to the layer icon and make a copy. So this is just a duplicate of this, right? Come up here to this lock icon and lock it. Okay, so now you've got the base font with all the effects on it, and it's locked. If I try to draw on it, you can't edit it. And then this one I've also locked, which is the metallic effect, right? So I've locked that. So basically the reason I lock those is so you know you always have a backup. So this is your copy, and so to get the metallic effect, you'll notice that all of these effects are still on this image here. You turn off the effects, it's just black, you know. If you turn the effects back on, they're there. So if I try to draw something on here, you'll notice that it has all these weird effects because it's being affected by all these effects, you know. It has limitations and it's weird, right? You can't do anything. So the way we get around that is come down here and make a new layer, and then you want to shift click both of these layers and right click it and then hit merge layers. Now you've got the same image, but now it's editable. You know, you can edit on it. So now we come over here and grab the dodge tool and just drag it across the middle there. And if you hold down shift while you're dragging, it goes in a straight line no matter what. All right, let's go back over it one more time and grab the burn tool. And what I did with the burn tool is came up here, darkened up the top here, come down here, darken down the bottom. Yeah, so now you've got kind of like a little extra sheen to it, right? And so that's pretty much the, you know, something similar to that. I put a little bit more work into mine, but obviously I'm doing this video, so yeah, that's the base font that I wanted to use for my image. So next, let's this is the darken layer. Let me just drag it down here and show you what it does. It's pretty simple. It just kind of gives it a little bit more emphasis towards the middle, you know, a little bit more focus, I guess. And easy way to do that, you know, make a new layer, come over here and grab your black, and then you can hit G to grab the paint bucket, make it black, and then just turn down the opacity to, you know, 15% or something, and then add a mask and go to town. Kind of whatever you want to focus on. Okay, so the last part is you know, the font is obviously really big, and this banner is also really big, which I didn't realize this at first, but you actually need to shrink down this font size. It's way too big. You got to shrink it down really small, apparently. Even though the document size is 2560 by 1440, you got to shrink it down to this small little focus area. So YouTube actually only recognizes about like that much of your image, if that, maybe even less. It's like maybe like this much. Like that's what YouTube sees on the banner for the YouTube page anyways. All this extra stuff around the edges is only going to show up on like on a TV. Like if you were to pull up your YouTube channel on somebody's TV, then they would see all this extra stuff. Okay, so there's one last extra step I wanted to show you that I did, which is just totally unnecessary, but it's just a little bit of extra work to make it stand out a little bit more, which was the blending that I added, which you can kind of see here. It's got these extra little lighting effects coming from the back, gives it that three-dimensional look. But everything up until this point can be done with the mouse. So everything that I've showed you so far can be done with the mouse. That's the main point I wanted to get across. Yeah, let me just turn these off real quick. I'll show you what it looks like a little bit. Yeah, these are all just extra little blending things. I actually painted those on there on the image itself. So, you know, basically what I did is you can hit Control and click on this your main text here, and what it does is it borders your text for you, so you don't actually let me get a color here. And it doesn't actually let you draw outside of the lines here, right? And so what I did with that is just basically at this point, you know, you just hit Alt to grab colors that you want to grab. To change your colors right here, back and forth, you can hit X. Every time you hit X, it swaps your active color palette that you're using. So yeah, you know, grab a color here, hit X, grab another color here, and then, you know, you can just start kind of blending these colors that you want to blend. And oops, yeah, I'm not gonna mess up my image here, but you get the idea. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire image and every step that I used to get here. If I missed anything, just let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Any feedback would be great. Yeah, so I hope this really helped you guys out so you can make your own YouTube banner for your page. Let me know what you think of the video. This is my first ever tutorial, I guess. If this video helped you out and you like it, then consider subscribing. It means a lot, and thanks for watching.